Hello guys and welcome to the channel. Today I'm bringing you an updated look at Counter-Strike Global Offensive. So the beta hasn't been updated for a couple of months now, but finally a big update has come out for it, and there's been some quite interesting changes and additions to the game. Okay, the first thing we're going to be looking at are the three new weapons that have been added to the game. The Nova shotgun, the Bison and the MP7. So the first one I mentioned was the Nova shotgun. So this is like a pump action shotgun that you can buy as a terrorist or a counter-terrorist, and from what I can tell it seems pretty beastly at the moment. I know shotguns obviously aren't used at the moment in competitive play in Counter-Strike, but the one that they've got in CSGO at the moment seems to do a lot of damage, and it's got quite a quick fire rate as well. So it was interesting playing with that. The Bison, now this has got like 64 bullets in it, and per magazine, 64 bullets per magazine, and it's sort of like an MP5, and I can see it being used a lot on the anti-eco rounds. It seems pretty good for spray and pray. A lot of the WASD users are going to enjoy that one, and that's terrorist only at the moment by the looks of it. Finally, we've got the MP7, which is the new counter-terrorist SMG. So I don't really like the way this one looks. It just seems far too small in the guy's hands. It just looks like a little pea shooter, but it seems like a slightly better version of the TMP, if you know what that is in Counter-Strike. And again, it's just probably one of those anti-eco weapons that's going to get used. They've also added a CT version of the Molotov in the equipment menu, and that's called the incendiary grenade, and as far as I can tell it's exactly the same as Molotov. It just has a different model and a different name. So the next point I want to talk about is the weapon specific cash rewards, and this is interesting, but I think the values that they've got at the moment seem a bit excessive. Like, as I said, if you get a kill with the AWP now, this is in competitive mode, you only get $50, where in Source and 1.6 you would get 300, so that's $250 difference, and you could buy like a flashbang with that or something. And I mean, I just think the difference is too excessive. Like $900 as well for the CQB weapons, that's pretty insane. That's like 3 times the current value. So say you were in the second round and you picked up the Bison, for example, and you ended up getting 4 kills, you'd have a lot of money in the bank by the third round. And yeah, I know Counter-Strike Source is a very balanced game. There's not really one weapon that's better than all the others, but I think maybe the values there are a bit too excessive. Next one, the limited number of grenades. Again, I think that's a good change. Like I said, makes your equipment choice more tactical. Stamina penalties, that's really good again. I think you should be able to get around the map quickly. Yes, I agree there should be a jumping penalty, because although bunny hopping was fun and it took skill and it could really give you an advantage on the map, it didn't really belong in a game like Counter-Strike in my opinion. So it's good that they've sort of continued with that tradition, that when you jump and land you're a bit slower, so it essentially stops bunny hopping. The best change in my opinion at the moment is the recoil. So as you can see here in these clips, the M4 and the AK, arguably the most popular guns in Counter-Strike, they're the ones that have to feel the best in my opinion. And in the previous version of Counter-Strike Go, they were really hard to sort of get a feel of how they were going to act when you were going like full auto with them. But now the recoil seems very reliable on them, and you can sort of get a good feeling of how they're going to react, which is really good, and it's reminiscent of 1.6. So I mean, I liked spraying in Counter-Strike Source. I think you could spray much more in Source than you could in 1.6, but the recoil of the guns at the moment in CSGO feels much more like 1.6 than Counter-Strike Source, which I think a lot of people are going to be happy with. So that's like a really good change in my opinion. I think also there's been some changes to the movement in the game as well. Originally when the game was released it felt very floaty, and then a week later when everyone complained about it they released an update and it felt much better, but it still wasn't quite right, and it felt sort of like Left 4 Dead, like very floaty Source engine movement, and you know, Counter-Strike's got to be quick, it's got to be responsive and snappy, and I feel like whatever change they've made, maybe it's to do with the acceleration in the game, it's feeling a lot better now than it was. I think it's much easier to sort of strafe, stop, fire a few bullets, strafe back the other way, fire a few bullets. Again, it's not perfect and I still think it needs a bit of tweaking, but it's getting better and better, which is the important thing. They've also updated the UI, so we've got a different splash screen now, and also they've got rid of the really crappy music that played when you loaded the game. It just sounded like some cheesy 1980s action movie, but I'm glad to see that that's gone. They've changed the options menu, they've changed some of the in-game menus as well, and they've done a few little changes to the buy menu. And you know, good changes. I think it's much clearer now, but the only thing I would like, perhaps if it was a bit more transparent, we could sort of see through the background, and also with the scoreboard as well. I think that needs to be a bit more transparent, because sometimes you bring your scoreboard up when you're mid-round and you might miss something because it's too dark. So do I have any complaints about the current patch? Well, there's still issues with the sound. Footsteps, in my opinion, aren't loud enough still, and the directional sound still needs some work. In 1.6 and Source, you can really tell where people are running around, but I said this in my last video, the sounds have like an ambience to them, and it's quite hard to pinpoint where people are, so that needs working on. There's also a few little bugs on the new levels, which is expected, and I also think the HDR, some of the lighting on the new levels is way overkill, and doesn't really appear to be an option to turn that off at the moment, so that's a problem. Also, smoke grenades, you can still obviously see things through them, they need fixing. One thing I'm really not liking about the beta at the moment as well are the tracers that come out of the guns. I don't know why that's in the game, they've never really had that in Counter-Strike. It doesn't look good particularly, so why have Hidden Path put it in there? I'd like to see them gone. So the maps that they've added, Inferno, Train, Nuke and Dust 2, I've already got a walkthrough of each of these maps that I released a few months back that you can check out, and there'll be links in the video for that there, so you can check those out. But we've got Inferno, Train, Nuke and Dust 2. Inferno is very similar at the moment, apart from some small changes to the Counter-Strike Source map. For example, the brick wall at Banana, you can't see down there anymore, you have to go over to the car. A couple of changes with the house as well and the bomb sites, but apart from that, of course aesthetically it's different, but the layout's pretty much the same. Dust 2 as well, the layout is exactly the same, apart from the odd prop here and there. Nuke and Train, however, they've had some pretty big changes. On Nuke, they've removed the back steps and they've taken out the second room on the lower bomb site, so there isn't like a second room anymore, which in my opinion, stupid move, because it just makes the map even more CT sided. The bomb site has drastically changed as well, and you don't have the windows anymore downstairs. Instead you've got these doors which you can open, and you can also shoot through them, which is very interesting, and it'll be cool to see how that plays in like a competitive game. Train has drastically changed as well. They've got lots of bigger trains now out in the yard, and they've moved the bomb site around, and it's much more reminiscent of the 1.6 version. There's not really that many little places where you can hide and not be seen but still be able to shoot people, which is good. It's just a large open map with large obstacles, so much more like the 1.6 version, which is pretty good in my opinion. The Source version of Train, it just had too many little spots where you could see people, they couldn't see you, you could shoot through and you couldn't get shot, that sort of thing. So I'm glad that they've sort of done that with Train. So that pretty much covers the February Counter-Strike Global Offensive update, guys. The game's shaping up to be really nice in my opinion. The developers are listening, so make sure you keep giving them your feedback on the forums and sending them your tweets. Again, hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and I will see you in the next one.